guys like when I tell stories, right? So I'm going to tell you some stories. I bought this last night. This was love at first, no, this was need at first sight. I saw this like, okay, done, gotta have this bike. It's a 1971 TS250, Suzuki TS250, otherwise known as the Savage. Before it was that cruiser, you know, thumper, this was the Savage. Why did I need this bike? Story time. So let's go back to the last couple of years that I was in New York, right? It was a very stressful time. I had just gotten away, I quit drag racing cold turkey, walked away from the whole thing, right? Which in itself was extremely stressful. And I had two businesses going, two full-time businesses. I worked day and night. I had my shop during the day and I had a coffee house at night. Worked 7 days and nights a week. And New York City is not exactly the most business-friendly environment there is. Very stressful, very stressful. Then on top of that, you had September 11th happen. Now, I'm from Staten Island, and everybody knew somebody that got snuffed in the towers. A friend, a relative, a neighbor, somebody. Out of the 343 firemen that were killed that day, at least half of them, well, probably about half of them, were from Staten Island. It was constant funerals, it was constant depression, constant craziness. And the smoke kept coming out of the hole in the ground for months. Very stressful times. So, hard to sleep, hard to relax. I became like a NyQuil addict, okay? Couldn't sleep without NyQuil. What does this have to do with motorcycles? So, let's go back, more stories. I never rode a dirt bike till I was 36 years old. Could you imagine that? I never rode a dirt bike until I was 36 years old because I grew up in New York City. And New York City, dirt bikes are just, you'll get in more trouble on a, I swear to God, you can't make this stuff up, right? The cops in New York, the laws in New York, everything is so screwed up. You're getting more trouble for riding a dirt bike in New York than you will for selling drugs, for robbing somebody, for beating somebody else. None of those things make a difference. Ride a dirt bike in New York City, you're public enemy number one, right? Lots of reasons to have to get out of there. So I grew up in an environment where you didn't have dirt bikes. And you knew that every other kid all over the world had dirt bikes. We didn't have them. So, make a long story short, after I quit drag racing, I got heavy into motorcycles. And again, it's like my second time around getting heavy into motorcycles. And I end up, guy owes me some money and I collect with a dirt bike. What am I going to do with this thing? I find that there's like an underground cult of dirt bike guys. They get together in these little patches of woods. I forget what they call the Greenway or the Green Belt. The Green Belt. There are these little patches of woods all through like Staten Island, all through the boroughs. Where, and I mean these little patches, like literally, okay, like this, what you can see right here is about the size of one of them. And they're randomly dispersed through the boroughs. This is supposed to be like a nature conservation thing. I think it was more like this is where the bodies were buried, so you can't build on it. Okay, this is, all right. So I find that there's this underground group of dirt bike guys that get together and like blast through these little greenbelt things until the cops come and chase them away. Well, I got into it hardcore, right? It was the most fun I ever had. 36 years old, right? So now I get crazy into dirt bikes. I had an RM120, I had a brand new RM125, well, a year-old RM125. I had a KX80, a KX125, and a KX250. And I was out there bashing on these things every chance I got. I'd sneak away from my shop or sneak away from whatever, go out into the woods and just romp on it until I hurt myself and then go back to work. It was fantastic. At about the same time, I discover a movie called On Any Sunday, right? Now, if you guys have never seen this flick, right, just pause this video now, go search it. It's a documentary from 1971. This guy named Bruce Brown. He was a filmmaker, and he did a film on the world of motorcycles. And you have to see this film to believe it. It's so good. It's so amazing. It's so, like I can't say enough good about this film. And this became my way to relax. I watched that movie every single night for like a year and a half. It was the only way I'd fall asleep. But that was it. At the end of the day, I'd come home from the coffee house, count the money, put it all away, put on Any Sunday, and fall asleep. And that was it. It was, you know, On Any Sunday. I moved to Tennessee. I had too many things to cover to get back into bikes and all of that. And then finally over this last year, I'm back into them. And I saw this last night on Marketplace. And I'm like, done, okay? Done. Why this bike? Why not a new one? Because when I watch on any Sunday, they're running all of these old school enduros and dirt bikes. This, right? It's in 1971. And the story with this bike is that, listen to this one, right? You want to talk about a bike with provenance. I bought this from the guy's grandson, right? The grandson sold me his grandfather's bike. He bought this bike new in 1971. It was his daily transportation. This was started out as an enduro with a headlight and a taillight and all that. It was his daily transportation for years. And then he just used it to bomb around in the woods. This bike is 51 years old. It's been in constant use for 51 years. I just blasted it with the pressure washer. It's the first time this bike has ever been washed. And yet it still runs. I mean, like, literally, I'm just blasting around on this thing. It needs a bit of a tune-up. Probably needs rings. So, the reason I jumped on this one is because in my mind, the back of my mind for the last year, I'm like, I gotta find an on any Sunday bike, right? And I've been watching and looking, and these old dirt bikes and enduros only come in two flavors. Completely restored, where the paint is beautiful, or original, where the paint is beautiful, it's not scratched up, the chrome is nice, everything's gorgeous. I don't want that. I can't take that out into the woods and be Malcolm Smith for an hour, right? Or Steve McQueen or any. I can't do that with that bike. It's too perfect. Or they come in complete basket cases, like where there's nothing there, right? This complete together, and it's just beat up enough. It's just that I can go out and have fun with this thing. So this is a definite keeper. I'll probably re-ring it. It shifts perfect. The clutch is perfect. Everything is just perfect on this. I'll re-ring it, get the compression back up a little bit, and just have fun with it. In that movie, On Any Sunday, right? So, okay, so you see where the world is right now, right? You see the way things are going. So there's a line in there, right? Steve McQueen, he used to race under this name, Harvey Mushman, because he was under contract for with the studios, the movie studios, and they didn't want him racing motorcycles. But he was a motorcycle racer. This is what he did. So he used to enter races under the name Harvey Mushman. So at some point during the course of this film, they go and they interview him, right? And it's like a random thing. You can tell they just walked up on him while he was doing his thing. And he says, sometimes when I think the world is all bad, I look around and I see people having fun on motorcycles. And then it makes me take another look, right? There you go. Just when you think the world is all bad, there's people out there having fun on motorcycles. Go get yourself. I'll see you tomorrow. I don't think it belongs to this.
Well, it looked like it did.